Hi there. One of the things that I hear frequently from students when they're preparing to take their integrative literature review paper and transition it into a poster is, can I copy and paste things from my paper directly into my poster? And the answer is yes. You want to avoid copying and pasting paragraphs. You want to use general concepts and move those into your poster. Most of the time, you want to create bullet points so that when someone is reviewing your poster, that it's easy for them to review it quickly. If you go into your text boxes and you put large paragraphs and they are 12 font and they're crammed into a little space, people won't take the time to read it. So if you're going to use your abstract, you should break up your abstract into key elements, underline them, say, background, methods, implications, findings, relevance to your audience. Underline those little headings and then put bullet points beside them. Every poster has its own style, and you will see posters that have paragraphs in them. But if they're in there, they should really be as concise as possible and easy to read. Only a couple of sentences in those spaces. So when you prepare to do your poster, know that these text boxes can be expanded and shrunk. So if you need a little less room for your abstract, it's okay to go into your file and to use the boxes and shrink them or make them bigger if you need more space. The guide, this template is just a guide. You can move your boxes around if you would prefer to have a much bigger section for your methods. You can move that into the center section. And again, all you're doing is moving and you're dragging. What you can't do is delete the boxes. You've got to have your abstract, your introduction, methods, evaluation and analysis, implications for future research, and the reference and acknowledgments. Now, I'm going to remind you that the references and acknowledgments are the references that are used on your poster. If you copy and paste from your paper in content into the poster, and let's say you copy and paste content that came from 4 or 5 authors. You could probably fit those into this section of references and acknowledgments. If you copy and paste or use information from your paper that has probably more than 5, you're going to need to do a separate file for your references. And that's just a Word document. And again, that Word document can be just the references that you've used on your paper, or you could do a bibliography that is all of the articles you found that were related to your topic. So those, you would have to go through your existing reference list and remove things that were mentioned in the background section, the odds and end papers, the odds and end things that you found that weren't relevant, the excluded studies. How you approach it is entirely up to you. From a scholarly standpoint, most of the time, there's a reference corner where we put the references that are on the poster, and then a bibliography that lists the findings in the literature, especially if you've done an integrative literature review. You are not required to do a bibliography paper. What you are required to do is give a reference list at a minimum of what you used to design your poster. And if you get to where you're above 5 or 6, you're going to need a separate Word document. And you'll submit that at the same time that you submit your poster. You'll load one file and then you'll load the other file. Just a reminder, this center section, it's blank. And that is an area that I want you to use for pictures, for charts, for graphs related to your research. This entire section should not be a copy and paste image from Google. It should be a purposeful use of the information you got from your integrative literature review. You can do tables, you can do a graph, be creative with this section. It's okay to put a couple of pictures in there, absolutely. Make it aesthetic and make it yours. But you don't want to put things in there that just look like they're taking up space. When you're getting ready to do that, All you have to do is go up to the text box, and you're going to draw a text box in here. You're going to click on text box and come down here and you'll open the text box. And you'll see how it's highlighted. I found this image that I just love, and it copies into my text box. So I can make this by dragging it in and putting it into my text box. I can make it bigger and bigger. And I can make it smaller. So if you use a text box first, it lets you control the size without repeatedly adjusting back and forth. You can also, I drug it off my desktop. You can also do the control C for copy, and then click into the text box and hit Control V for paste. As long as you've got a text box, that helps you move everything together, and it helps you shrink it and fit it better. You can do this a lot of different ways. You can, without a text box, drop it in, but it makes moving it and adjusting it a little bit more cumbersome. So my suggestion would be, as you add content into this open field, that you take the time and you add the text boxes and then add your content in there for your purposes. If you've if you've created a graph or a chart or a table, my suggestion would be to do that in Word, get it situated the way you want to, and then use the snip or a clip program. Often it comes in the paint section of Microsoft Word that actually lets you just do a screen capture of your picture, edit it there, save it to your desktop, and do just what I did with Snoopy, drag it into your text box. It will be easier than trying to go into this field and adjust and move things or design them in here. It's much easier to go into Word, create what you need, do a snip of it or a screen capture of it, copy it, and then place it here. The idea is that you have an aesthetic final product. This is a copy of a poster that I designed after I did my research related to resilience. It isn't on the Liberty template because at the time we didn't have the template, but this is a layout of what a well-developed poster should look like. As you can see, in my key concepts, I've used short paragraphs and I've spaced them with a space so that when somebody comes by, they can read them pretty quickly. My methods, there's single lines. And you can add bullet points if you'd like. Sometimes bullet points get to where they're a little bit more, like I'm talking about the bullet point, not just the design of a bullet point. If you use a bullet point, sometimes it takes up a lot of spacing. I find it easier to just add a space in between it. These tables, these graphs that I designed, these were all in a Word document. I used screen capture. I pulled the table I needed and I dropped them in here into a text box. I've added these little tags about resilience because it broke up the narrative and it added color. So that was my attempt at creating an aesthetic layout. This is something that I was really pleased with how it turned out from an aesthetic standpoint, and when it printed, it was really, it looked great. Another thing I want to remind you that when you're working with the poster, you can always shrink or make your section more easier to manage by changing your zoom feature down here on the right bottom. You can make it smaller or you can make it bigger. As I'm getting older, I'm realizing I need bigger much more often. So if I'm going to be working in this one space up here, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to just focus in getting this section right, and then I can adjust back out. I can zoom back out and I can see how it looks. So I'm going to encourage you to use the zoom feature on the bottom to toggle through so you can see things clearly. Before you finish, back up and get an overall view of what your poster looks like. Are you pleased with the aesthetics? Is it laid out the way you want it to be? Lastly, I'm going to give you I'm going to let you look at the example of a class. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, this is it. Okay. This is an example of a former student who completed this assignment a few subsections ago. And this was a very well designed poster. So this student did a great job of centering her center section and using graphs and tables. As you can see, it's very easy to look at this and follow the flow and understand exactly what she was looking at when she did the design. I think this does a very nice job of showing how you can get a lot of information in a little space, and the benefits of taking the time to really design each section carefully so that the information that's present is, it flows well, it's aesthetic. If someone walks by, they can immediately understand, okay, this is what the topic is about. They can go up to the abstract where you can see that that person has bolded objective, methods, results, and conclusion. It's a great way to organize your abstract so that someone can come in and just read this abstract real quick and say, I find this interesting. Let me read the rest of this. So this student did a fantastic job with this. So something to think about as far as how you're organizing this. So my hope is that this has given you some idea of which direction to go, give you some guidance on what a really good project looks like, and know that you can reach out and let me know if you have questions or concerns. I'm happy to address any questions you may have. I'm here